Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining another Beam Bites, our last one of the year. And I am blessed and so happy to be joined by our special guest today, Cecil Graves, founder of Inspirations by Affirmations. Also joining us today is President of Beam Education, Brian Gelke, and co-founder and CEO of Beam Education, Dr. Andrea Nelson. How's it going, guys? Thanks for joining me on this impromptu last show of the day. We had started a conversation with Mr. Graves about the great things that we're doing with Beam Education. We got an opportunity to meet with, what was it, the earlier part of last year, Mr. Graves? Uh,
Yes.
all right, please tell us a little bit about the function that you had then, how we met you, and what you're doing with your organization, sir.
Well, I met you all at a store, and randomly I sparked a conversation. So my program was called a business symposium that brought six Black business owners together so we can converse about how to start businesses and how to operate them. And for those that are young into the industry, as myself, we came together and we talked, we dialogued, and it was very beneficial. It was very successful, and looking forward to a new one next year.
Great. Dr. Nelson, if you would like to add a little bit there on how we came across to meeting Cecil and how we're looking forward to working with him in the future.
Well, I think we met Mr. Graves at a very crucial time, because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, you can be in a place where you feel like you're in isolation. So for him to have the vision to bring six different entrepreneurs together from different industries was a wealth of information, as a wealth of being able to fellowship with others who were having both the same rewards, as well as also having issues with starting a company. So, and that relationship has kept on, and we're hoping to partner with him to help us make Beam Micro School Academy a realization in August 2025.
Indeed.
All right. Thank you, guys. Sorry about that. Brian, I was saying, yeah, you're joining us as well now that I have my microphone on. Uh, Share with us a little bit about the part of the conversation you're having with Mr. Graves as we build toward opening up Beam Micro School in 2025. Sir.
Well, I think one of the main things we were talking about this morning was looking at the plan that we've created. We know we have 8 months until we have our grand opening, so we're looking at how we can use the business information and his business background and things like that with what he does in order to help us make sure that we have a fully fleshed out plan as we move towards that opening, like I said, in August of 2025.
Great. Now, Mr. Graves, after hearing a little bit about our plan, give us a little outside opinion about what you think we're doing and how we can be of service to our community together.
Well, I was very new to the term micro school, but after being educated through you all, I think it would be very beneficial for the community in regards to a more intimate setting. It's gearing towards the needs of students. I think there's a breakdown in our system. And I think with micro schools and bringing that into the area, it's going to be very beneficial for not only children, but the community as well. So I think it's a great vision. I'm here to support the business. And I thank you kindly for involving me. With my business, informations, this is all tied together because it gears towards mindset. How do you create that positive mindset to achieve your goals, your ambitions? How do you do that? That's by having a positive mindset. Because we are in a time where students there are so much distractions. You have social media, you have peer pressure, you have all these things. And students, they need a safe haven where it's a more intimate setting to not intimidated or overwhelmed. Yeah.
Now, you spoke with us earlier and told us that you're active in the schools doing some teaching and or
Yeah,
speaking and coaching and stuff like that. Share
correct.
with us and the guests that are listening some of the challenges you face as an say an adjunct speaker to those in the school system. Some of your observations of what you're seeing is needed for our kids that it doesn't appear that they're getting.
The thing that I noticed with this generation, Trey, is that they want somebody to listen. That's the main key, is to listen. You have a lot of kids that are one parent homes. They're dealing with poverty and all these different things. And in regards to that, or in consequence of that, they act out in the school system. I see poorly classroom management. I see a lot of things that need to be changed. Like I said, there's a highly breakdown in the system. So when I go to these schools, I'm a body, I'm a listener, I'm an encourager, a motivator, and all those things to motivate, engage, grow, enhance, and to show them there's a better way, to show them that you can make it, to show them that there's nothing that you can't do or achieve by having a positive mindset.
Very good. Right now, I have a graphic that kind of displays what we're talking about up. It has a picture of happy, bright, energetic kids going into our current school system machine and coming out all bland and washed out. So, Dr. Nelson, talk a little bit about how we are looking to change this image that's going on, what people are currently feeling in our school system, and what Mr. Graves has seen evidence of as a visitor in our school system and how we're looking to change that.
Well, if you could go back to the political cartoon that you displayed, I think it becomes real important to think about learning is the most natural thing that we do. Everything that we do when we come out of our mother's womb is a part of the learning process. But when we look at young kids and we look at the fact that their curiosity and their love to learn something new, may it be from all of their five senses, it's there. But then we put them in the structures and systems that take away the joy of learning and makes us think that we're not true learners because of how the system is set up. The one question that I would pose to people is, why are we still putting children in grades? Because if I asked each and every one of you, the guests today, if I asked you to tell me how old were you when you were put in first grade, for the most part, each one of you would tell me that you were put in first grade when you were either 6 or 7, depending on the
Mhm.
state you were in. I was 5 when I went to first grade, but I was already reading and I had a lot of skill set. So I want you to think about what happens to a group of children when they're all on different continuums and levels. And what happens to those children who are not there where they're supposed to be. And so when you look at that continuum of what we do with students, it becomes very unfair. And it really doesn't speak well to us as educators who have gone to college. And so I think it becomes necessary. And what we plan to do at B.E.A.M Micro School is we have a comprehensive mastery skills framework that we use to find out specifically where children are. Because as they see that they grow and that they're learning, that increases who they are in being able to have not only resiliency, but
Mhm.
also it allows them to have a positive aspect of who they are as learners.
It also creates a unique environment where they're learning from students that are not necessarily the same age as them. They could have somebody that, that's 3 years older than them or 3 years younger than them, but because they're on the same mastery network, they're learning to work with those different age levels. Unlike the traditional system, where, like we were saying before, you're put into a box because of your age, and you basically stay in that box until you graduate from high school. But that's not the real world, and that's not the world that they're going to enter into when they graduate from high school. So that's why with B.E.A.M micro schools, we want to change that and use that mastery framework.
And so the other thing that we need to think about with that multi-age grouping and with those cluster flexible grouping, basically in a traditional setting, most of the time kids are in third grade or they're in first grade. And basically, if they're behind, they have to get intervention. And so I want you to think about how deflating it is for possibly a fourth grader who's sitting in fourth grade, but they're reading on second grade level. And they know it because when they look at the materials, they can't do that. But then I want you to think, I want you to have a vision in your mind. What happens to kids when they actually know where they are, when they actually know what it is that they have to master to move to the next place? And then on top of that, after they know what they have to master, they master it. And then the group changes. The group doesn't stay the same because all of us learn different things at different times. And so that's why it becomes necessary, especially after the pandemic, that we move away from an arbitrary grade system that does not work to support closing the major gaps that we have currently with what has been made through the pandemic and the loss of educational time.
No, and I
And
think
also,
you really.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay.
No.
I'm sorry. You talking? Okay, I'm sorry. So being in a traditional school setting.
Go ahead, Mr. Graves. You're up.
I'm up. Thank you. So being in a traditional school setting, the kids, they get lost in it. So with a micro school, you can sort of meet the kid where they are and then take them where they need to be. And I think sometimes kids feel less, um, I guess they feel maybe dumb or stupid if they have interventions or if they have resource classes or things like that. Um, a lot of kids think a person with an A is better than a person with a B, and you're not. A person that has a B is not better than a C. So we have to change their thinking, and they'll get there. With a more intimate setting, they'll get there. You'll meet them where they are, and you'll take them where they are and they need to be. They won't feel as what's the word I'm looking for? Less valued. Yeah.
You really hit the nail on the head too with saying change their thinking, because it's not only the students thinking that you have to change, it's the adults thinking that has to change too.
Yes.
You know, we've gone through this, talked to many community members as we've gone through this process, and a lot of the adults question why the education system needs to be changed. And you just hit the nail on the head as to why it does need to be changed, because those
Mhm.
students don't feel valued. And that's the
They
most
don't.
important thing.
Correct. And there's a book that's called Who Moved My Cheese? Y'all familiar with that book? It's called Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes,
And talks
very
about,
much so.
it's a very good, easy read. It talks about change and why change is needed and why change is sometimes uncomfortable but necessary. Yes.
And I think that goes back to what Dr. Nelson talks about wayfinding. Dr. Nelson, would you talk to us a little bit more about the importance of wayfinding that is brought out
Okay,
in the
so
book of Who Moved My Cheese?
well, not only in Who Moved Our Cheese, but many of us are familiar with Disney movies. And so if
Mm-hmm.
you know the Disney movie, the one that just came out about the South Pacific, Monona, did I say it right?
Mono too.
Moana.
Moana.
Moana and
In
Moana
Moana,
2.
in Moana,
Yes.
wayfinding is a term that fishermen, boaters, all of those. But wayfinding is also a 21st century skill that children need. Because think about it. Think about how quickly we have advanced with the use of cell phones, with the use of technology, with the use of how we use television, with the use of how we socialize. So it becomes necessary for us to teach kids how to wayfind. So wayfinding is the ability to pivot, to be flexible, to change quick enough where you are able to do what it is that you need to do. So when you think about wayfinding as adults, how many of you have woken up in the morning, need to get to work, and your car won't start? And so instead of you just falling out saying, I'm not going to work today, you have to either call a friend, you have to either say, I'm going to use Uber, or if you're lucky enough and you can do remote work, you can do remote work. So that's why it becomes necessary that kids have a total understanding. And at point, failure is just as important as success, for them to realize that at some point I have to be able to wayfind. I have to be able to shift when I'm not telling them right.
All right, very good. We got the definition of wayfinding up on the screen so people know how important that is. What other qualities are you think are required in our modern day ecosystem that is needed not only for the kids to be successful, but the families to be able to help the kids be successful?
So
And
one of
this
the
is for
things
everybody
that
in
we
the group.
talk about are those 21st century skills. I think Brian, he kind of alluded to it. Cecil kind of alluded to it. We're talking about 21st century kid skills: collaboration, being able to solve problems, being able to be creative, being able to know when you have common sense around numeracy, you have common sense around literacy, you have common sense around, and I want to really hit that numeracy piece, because numeracy is huge. When you start using calculators, when you start using any of those devices, and sometimes think about when you use a GPS system. And when you're using that GPS system, you know it's taking you the wrong way. That is that piece of a 21st century skill of, just because you have the technology, you're the human that makes the technology work. So therefore, you have to have enough common sense to know, okay, even though I'm using the technology can also fail me, and I have to have enough information to know when I'm not hitting it, when it's not doing for me what it's supposed to do. Because we have to remember that technology is a tool that makes our life simpler and better.
Exactly. Now, Dr. Nelson, I have our little friend Noah queued up. Wanted
I'm
to
gonna
see if
let
we could play
Gilkey
a.
talk about him.
Okay, well, let me play a
That's
little
why he's
brief clip.
smiling.
Right. Let me see if I got the audio hooked up right. We can play a brief little clip of Noah, and then Gelky will talk about uh, the educational skills and techniques this young man learned and then actually put on display for us. Okay.
You are? We go to paper ballots. Ask him what proof he has in his fair. Why? How do you know? Which election are you talking about? There was one. No. There was one down in Georgia. 3 Democrats. I'm from Georgia. Okay, there's 3 Democrats in Georgia in the summer of 22. She's a good friend of mine. She got 0 votes in her own precinct. Who is it? So Brenda, I'm not telling you her last name. I see. But you see. But let me tell you, the proof. They looked into it in Georgia. Okay. Crooked Brad Rasmussen, your Republican Secretary of State, he looked into it and said, oh, it was a computer error. They gave her back her vote. She went from third to first. She's a friend of mine. Another gal, Democrat, 4 counties over in Georgia. She got 4,600
But where's
votes,
the proof?
but she wasn't on the ballot.
You want me to take your word for it, right?
No. This was in the paper.
So what's your last name? He's an elected official.
Okay, let me tell you. In Georgia, I will tell you, an Obama appointed judge last fall, this case been going on 3.5 years. Alex Halderman, this is in your state.
All right. So that was a little bit from Noah. And Gelky, I'm going to let you go ahead and speak on that, and we'll get a round robin discussion on the critical thinking taught by this young man and how he brought it to the forefront in that brief interview that we saw.
Well,
Go ahead,
the great thing about watching Noah is, he's really everything that embodies what we want to create in Beam Micro School Academies, is that he has those critical thinking skills that are necessary to be functioning in the real world. But the great thing when you look at him is you realize is that even at his age, he has a voice and he knows how to use it. And a lot of our children and our students nowadays don't feel like they have a voice. They don't feel like adults listen to them or listen to their perspectives. And he embodies the fact that actually they do. And if you also know he wasn't overly aggressive, he wasn't overly pushy, but he still was going to get his point across that 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 man was not giving him any proof to back up what he was saying. So I think that's why we love looking at that clip. I mean, we would love to have the opportunity to talk to Noah as well, to see his perspective on what he thinks about the educational system too. But I know he'd gone through a non-traditional education system, not the regular public school system. So he's also proof that there is another way that you can get an education and be prosperous at what you do, even at his young age.
Because that landscape really has to look different in education for the 21st century. We're not sending kids to work in factories anymore. There's a diversity of what children are going to be able to do. And so therefore, we're back to the wayfinding. They have to be able to pivot. But for me, when I watch Noah, someone taught him through providing him with a lot of different sources of information that you have to check your citations. And so a lot of times we present information to kids in one way. And when we present that information to kids in only one way, that lowers their ability to be able to look to a lot of different sources of information. And that is what we are creating in B.E.A.M, that when we're working with kids, our curriculum is based on project-based learning, where they will either be working on a project or solving a problem. And as they solve that problem, they will have to look at more than one source. You can do that with a 5-year-old. You can start getting a 5-year-old to realize which grocery list is cheaper by spitting it in the AI. And they would be able to tell you, well, when I look at my little numbers down here, this number tells me that this is where we need to go shopping, or how much money do I need to spend if there's something I want. So we need to change the dynamic of just filling kids with a bunch of information and change it so that kids are taking information, but they're also able to evaluate what they're being given. They're being able to synthesize that information into everyday life. And they're also being able to apply what they learn daily in a situation that is either a simulation, that's in a real problem situation, where they have to really solve something so that new learning totally stays with them.
Cecil, what would you like to add to that from your point of view? Go ahead.
Sure. I've never met Noah or heard of Noah, but from that small clip, Noah is a very confident person, and he's intelligent, respectable, or respectful, and he's knowledgeable. So he's not going to take what somebody says or let somebody speak for him. He has a voice. Well, I was thinking in my head, what's so sad about now generation, they don't know life skills. They can't write their name in cursive. They can't write a signature. They can't write a check. They can't do none of those things because it's not being taught anymore. And I think with micro school, all those life skills can be added. But as far as Noah, confident, bold, voice. And if you're confident in who you are, even though you may be wrong sometimes, but if you're confident in who you are, then your voice speaks volumes. And people will respect you. They'll look at you differently. Yeah.
Dr.
Know
Nelson,
your
we have
voice.
the three. Exactly. And one of the ways we want to help you know your voice, or one of the ways we're working with that instructional guideline through B.E.A.M, is through our 3 impacts of engagement. Dr. Nelson, I have the slide up on the screen that talks about B.E.A.M Institute, B.E.A.M Micro School Academy, and B.E.A.M Lanyard. So if you'd like to talk to a little bit more about each one of those points, I'll bring that up full screen so that you can talk about those and how we look to address those issues through the B.E.A.M ecosystem.
So what I want to tell you first is, yes, we started this conversation out with B.E.A.M Micro School Academy. And so B.E.A.M Micro School Academy is the school that we believe that will take the 21st century skills and help children develop in an information age, and that they'll be able to do their research. We talked about those 21st century skills of being able to be creative, being able to problem solve, being able to socialize with others who are not like you. I will take it even further to make you think our kids need to understand a global market. Our kids need to understand about environmental stewardship. Our kids need to understand what a world money market looks like. And that starts with the education now. If they're going to inherit what they're going to inherit from us, they have to be ready. And for most of our children, they're not going to get that if we still stay to the traditional curriculum that we're using in schools. Because that curriculum basically looks like what it looked like for me. At a certain time, you do reading. At a certain time, you do math. At a certain time, you do science. But really, is that how you live your real life? And is that how you learn something really new? So that is why B.E.A.M Academy, it has to be put in the earth. It has to be birthed. Now, not only can B.E.A.M Micro School Academy, we offer through B.E.A.M Education, which is who sponsors B.E.A.M Micro School Academy. We also have B.E.A.M Institute. B.E.A.M Institute allows us to provide some of the structures, the systems, and the professional development that we have used as administrators, teachers, business people. And so we are able to go into businesses as well as school districts and nonprofit organizations and provide professional development, consultancy on such topics as implicit bias, such topics as how do you align your systems and projects so that you end up with goals that you want to accomplish. And then finally, the last of our last 3 points of impact is B.E.A.M Lanyap. And if you don't know anything about living in Louisiana, I lived in Louisiana 19 years. Mr. Gelke is from Louisiana. And so they use that word a lot in Louisiana, lanyard. It means free or extra. So we have some extra programming that we can provide for you. Some of that program consists of being able to help parents, being able to learn how to parent in the 21st century. It's helping them to know what they need to do financially if they want to plan for their children's future. Because what I want us to think, because I'm going to give you a little story about my own mother and my own family. In my family, they had one formula. That formula was every grandchild that was in that family would go to college. And so for the most part, out of all of my cousins, we went to college, and we went to some very good schools. I currently have a cousin who's working on a doctorate in AI at Columbia University. And so when you think about it, we needed that. We were coming out of the civil rights movement. That formula had worked previously to move more African Americans into the middle class. But that is not true today, because there is so much proliferation on how people learn in the world today that there are opportunities that you can be certified to do a job and not have a college degree. But it's about having a very strong skill set. And I'm going to go back to that word again, wayfinding, and that we also teach kids how to pivot. Because for the most part, the kids in the 21st century, they will have to take on different jobs that look different more than 10 times during their lifetime. I myself have already had like 8. I have changed jobs 8 times. And so with that, we have to teach kids to have a growth mindset, but also be able to have the skill of wayfinding, to shift and move based on what is going on in society at that moment. And we're not doing that. Gelp, you want to add to it?
And I would. I said, and in their environment as well.
Hmm.
You look at on my LinkedIn page, and we're broadcasting this on LinkedIn, you'll see I have over 31 positions that I have listed on LinkedIn. And that's all a part of that wayfinding that you're talking about. Looking at how do we pivot? How do I add to the skills that I already have to increase my value to the employer that I'm seeking to be employed by? In every position I'm in, I'm looking to learn how can I grow position to make myself more valuable for the next. Mr. Graves, how have you seen wayfinding out there on your side of things? We've heard a lot from the educators. You're the other non-educator on here with me. Tell me your experience
Well, I've been on both sides. So, yeah, I've been on both sides. Uh, when I go to speak, I have a no excuse uh, mind frame. That being said, a lot of kids know I go to a lot of Title I schools, and their environment uh, sort of, it folds their mind frame. But I always say your environment does not, it's not, your environment that you're in is not your ending. You create your own ending, you create your own opportunity. So you may have more hurdles and more obstacles, but it's still no excuses. So I get them trained to think that I can do this and you can do that. Your environment does not create your conclusion. A lot of kids are lazy. They're not pushed. They're not motivated. They want to play games all day. They don't want to study. They don't want to learn. So I think with the B.E.A.M micro school, when kids go into school, no, they tired. They don't want to whatever. But when they leave, they're supposed to leave happy. I learned this. Oh, Mr. Graves made this so exciting. I want to go home and read about it. How do we change the norm? Do we rewrite the narrative? You gotta make it fun, exciting, creative. You gotta go outside the box. We're living in different stages, different times. Times have evolved, and we have to catch on. We have to also relate to what you can capture, hook them, get the bait, then draw them in. Then when you draw them in, you cook them. Yeah, and they produce. Yeah.
well, that's good. Yes, we do want to make learning fun again, so to speak. Right now, we have a picture up of the timeline of the inception of B.E.A.M education. Basically, it started out with the vision of Dr. Nelson and other members of the team, started in 2020, and with our goal to reaching and having a fully functional micro school 2025, August of 2025. Dr. Nelson, did you want to speak anything about the timeline and the creation and where
I
we've
don't
come
really
from
want
and
to.
where we are and where we're going?
What everyone needs to know, because we could spend a lot of time talking about that timeline, but we're right now in the present, in the history, present, and in the future. We're like how many hours away from it being a new future? So as we think about a new future, what I want you to think about is we're looking for 50 founding families to join us on this journey of B.E.A.M Micro School Academy to make education look different, to make it be exciting, and to make it be aligned to the 21st century. And so if you're one of those out there that knows that there's another way for your child to learn, that understands that learning is just as natural as breathing every day, and you want your children to have a joyous experience in school, then we ask you to join us by going to our website and pushing that join us button and sending your information in, because we're looking for you. We need you to say, I don't want my child to go through the same traditional system that I went through. I
Hmm.
want my child to be able to go through an education system that looks and feels like the 21st century they will inherit.
And the other piece of that too is with those 50 founding families, you also get the chance to actually help us form what that education is going to look like. That'll open in August of 2025, and I think that's really a really unique aspect as well.
And I'll say this: I'm
Excellent.
very happy. I'm very excited to be part of the movement. I think it's a positive thing, and I'm going to put every effort that I can to make it successful.
Great. Any closing words from you guys as we wrap up our third episode of Beam Bites?
Mine is
I
simple.
think, I'm sorry.
Mine is very simple, and then we'll shoot it over to Grace. Because I sent this message to somebody this morning. I said, Happy New Year. And I want you to know that you will thrive in 2025.
Love it.
Right.
That's
Very
a great
good. Ms.
pitch.
Graves, you're up.
As the school progresses, as everything comes together, my goal is to help them find purpose and to fulfill purpose. Because a lot of people don't know how to find purpose and what purpose looks like. And yeah, I'm excited. Purpose-driven life.
Great. Brian, your final thoughts or messages to share for 2024 with our guests?
I'm just excited to where we're headed. We know 2025 is going to be a big year for us, and we just want everybody to come join us on that movement. Like I said, with those founding families, come be a part of forming that journey with us as we move into the new year.
Yeah.
Yes, please join us at beameducation.org. That's the best place to go to get the latest information. We can also be found on all your other social media channels. You can look for us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on I believe we're on X as well. If we're missing one that we need to be on, as our guests, as our viewers, please let us know where we can put our information so we can be found by your friends and family. And we look forward to being of service to you guys in 2025 and beyond. So, with that being said, let's get a Happy New Year's from everybody. And until the next time on Beam Bites, we look forward to seeing you then.
Happy New
Bye-bye,
Year.
everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you, Mr. Grace, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for joining us, and look forward to working with you in the new year to make Beam a success for our community and for those in our community.